welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at some ancient civilizations that were found and reported on back in the 1800s. So the very first one is about the Ascension Islands, and I know I've heard about it, but this is it right here. It's off the coast of Brazil and off the coast of Africa, out in the middle of nowhere. It's a volcanic island. So yeah, let's get into the very first one. Freshwater spring below the level of the sea, ancient ruins on Ascension. Ascension Island, January 1864. You must remember that dreaded sand flat halfway between the Ponatic Harbor and Shillong in your excursions up and down the coast. Did not those bare flats often remind you that time and tide, especially the latter, wait for no man? And how was it that you and that we missionaries could pass there so often, and so often wait there for the tide, and never call to see the great wonder of the place? A freshwater spring boiling up out of the sea? Fishermen have been accustomed to go to this opening to slake their thirst, and yet I never heard of the cooling fount till a few days ago. There is an opening in the reef just where this flat joins it, and near this opening is a boiling spring shooting up pure water from coral rocks. The natives say that after heavy rains, this spring is much stronger, and from this infer that it is the mouth of an island stream. This stream must make considerable distance underground, as the flats and mangrove swamps are pretty wide. And how did the coral manage to grow in fresh water, as it must have done to encase this little stream? We visited the place at low tide. The water was then some 3 or 4 feet deep. Some of our natives dove down and drank. I helped myself to the water by means of a hollow reed. There are several little holes where the water boils up through the white sand and coral rocks. I am told that there are several other such openings along the barrier reef, one near this place, more than 4 miles from any land. You visited the ruins at the Weather Harbor. Do you think these people ever had energy enough to bring together such masses of huge rocks? And how did they manage to float such masses to the coral island 12 miles to the westward? There are extensive stone ruins on the Ant Islands, and the materials must have been floated from this island. I was sorry you did not find time to visit some of the artificial embankments common on this island. These ruins or embankments consist of simple ridges of earth, sometimes a mile or more in length, rising gradually from the level at one end and terminating at the other in a head, generally faced with stone, from 6 to 10 feet high. These ridges are very straight and evenly built, and as they terminate in an open plain, they are quite prominent objects. The natives attribute them, as they do the stone ruins, to an ancient race of giants, and some of them think giants are buried in them. Excavations have been made in several with a view to discover bones or relics, but so far the treasures are wanting. In but a single instance have excavating parties met with success. Some years ago, several captains of vessels lying in this port went with their crews, armed with spades, pickaxes, etc., to an embankment near this place. After working pretty hard till near night, one skipper discovered an old rusty coin in the dirt under his feet. Thinking now the prospect a good one, he scrapes the dirt over the treasure and proposed to the company to abandon the enterprise as hopeless and return to their ships, to which proposal they all agreed. Long ere the next day had dawned, the lucky captain with the few chosen ones to whom he had revealed the secret of yesterday were on their way to complete the work, but all their dreams of wealth ended in bringing back the old coin one of the other captains had thrown as a bait the day before into the hole. There was no little laughing among the shipping that night. Similar must be the discovery of crosses and crucifixes in the ruins at the Weather Harbor. If other races lived upon these islands and built these ruins, they were no more skillful than the present, though they must have been less lazy. So that's way out in the Atlantic Ocean with artificial embankments. It's just crazy. Okay, this one's from 1875. Ruins of ancient cities. Of equal importance and perhaps of more general popular interest were the discoveries of the ruins of ancient cities. The party were conducted to these by Captain Moss, who knows this country better than any other white man living, and whose exploits equal in interest those of Kit Carson or old Jim Badger. It seems that Captain Moss, who understands several Indian languages and who knows their customs, habits, and favorite retreats, had been placed in possession of the facts which led him to believe that down beyond Baker's Park, at the headwaters of the Rio Manses, about 40 miles from the Utah borders, and a little more than that from the New Mexico line, were some rare and important ruins of an ancient people and ancient cities. The trip was a very tedious one over an almost impassable country. After a week's journeying, a distance of 100 miles beyond the most westerly San Juan mines, they came to a canyon, along which, high up in the cliffs, they suddenly got the first sight of the interesting mines which they sought, and further down were still others. There seemed to be 3 or 4 classes of these ruined cities, those on the plains, which would seem to indicate a vast population in former times, others in the bottom of canyons and cliff cities, or those on the summits of bluffs. All bore evidences of well-advanced civilization that must have died out ages ago. All the relics found seem to point back centuries, like those found in Arizona and the Goblin cities described by a recent trader in the headwaters of the Gunnison. There were large mounds in which the piles of bones would indicate that whole families had been buried. With the remnants of those that were still undecayed were found agricultural, mining, and domestic implements. The size and length of some showed that they must have belonged to a race of giants. Fragments of old pottery was strewn around, much of it finely engraved and ornamented. But lower down on the plains were the most remarkable ruins. Parts of towers of well-hewn stone. The base of these was 30 feet in diameter. Their height is a matter of conjecture, for only the crumbling ruins remain. Around all of this were indications of thick walls, as if to protect the people during a siege. There were also large reservoirs. Many scraps and fragments were gathered up by the party, who remained only a few hours. Some 40 photographs were taken. Professor Endich received portions of earthenware and will analyze the paints that mark them. Medicine sacks are also placed in his possession. Jackson's negatives will be heliotyped for illustrations in a bulletin description of the character and peculiarities of this extinct tree, which will be published soon. It is the opinion of members of the survey that the position of these ruins and the heaps in which bones, implements, and household utensils are found show that this race, gradually driven to the mountain fastness by a superior people, and their ranks disseminated, were finally starved out by a siege or carried off by an epidemic. In a single mass were found bones, implements of war, of agriculture, relics of art, education, and domestic economy near their swallow-like dwelling made of stone and mud. So important is this whole matter that Professor Hayden has secured an expert, well-traveled, who will proceed at once to the site of these ruins and spend weeks and months if needed, exhuming and gathering up particles of everything that will throw any light upon the character and customs of this lone race. Okay, this one is from 1879. Ancient ruins in Putnam County. Perhaps many of your readers will be astonished at the above caption. What? Ancient ruins in Putnam County? Yes, and very extensive ones too. At the solicitation of several gentlemen, the writer recently visited what is locally known as the Old Indian Town, situated on the right bank of the Kanawha River from 2 to 4 miles above the town of Buffalo. So that must be in New York. We had been shown a number of relics found at this place, and having compared them with other Indian relics, we concluded that they were not identical with that class of American remains. We believed them to belong to the age of the mound builders, and on visiting the spot, our belief was confirmed, for we found not an Indian town, but the remains of a once populous city belonging to the prehistoric ages, built by a nation or race that dwelt on this continent prior to its occupation by the Indians. The ruins belong to what is known to antiquarians as the Age of Pottery, and has an area of many areas in extent. It is literally covered with fragments of pottery of every conceivable design, mingled with human bones, images, etc. Among the ruins have been found many rare curiosities, a number of which are now in possession of Senator R.S. Brown, to whom they have been presented. But the most important and prominent object among the ruins is the vast earthwork, the magnitude of which at one place is among the most conspicuous as well as ancient ruins of its class on this continent. Without a diagram, it is impossible to convey what else than a very value idea of this extensive and massive fortification. They have doubtless been erected as a means of defense against hostile invaders. Your correspondent has visited many of the ancient fortifications, which rank first in the list of American antiquities, and most conclude that it is the most expansive work of its kind in the Ohio Valley, if not east of the Mississippi, those of Marietta, Newark, and Corderville not excepted. It is from 10 to 15 feet high and more than 2 miles in length, skirting the river Hole throughout its entire extent. The city appears to have been situated upon the wide bottom in front of the fort, in which the inhabitants could take refuge in case of an attack. The embankment has been thrown up from both sides, the front being composed of a sandy loam from the river bottom, while the rear is composed of a musky clay taken from the base of the adjacent hill. In front of the embankment is yet to be seen the basin of a vast reservoir, doubtless scooped out for the purpose of containing a supply of water, a military provision in case of investment by an enemy. So it seems like most of these ruins, no matter where they are fortified against something, like a very bad something, giants or I don't know. Okay, this one's 1859, discovery of ancient ruins. A few years ago, a fisherman wandering along an unfrequented part of the coast of Santa Barbara County, which borders upon the Pacific to the southward of San Francisco, observed that the constant drifting of the sands a short distance inland from the ocean beach had partially uncovered what appeared to be the ruins of some ancient edifice. He took little notice of the circumstance at the time, but has recently reported it to some gentleman whose curiosity has been excited to visit the place. Their investigations have brought to light the fact that an aboriginal race, far exceeding in antiquity any hitherto known, have once existed on this coast. The architecture is not unlike that of the ruins of Central America and Mexico. It was evidently a temple of some kind. About 20 well-formed and massive pillars are visible, one of which, on being followed down by some laborers employed for the purpose, seemed to increase in size after the Egyptian order towards the base, which has not yet been reached. The stone is the common gray granite of California. No other ruins are found in that part of the state, nor indeed anywhere in California, though now and then miners delving far down in the bowels of the earth have come upon terracotta and iron implements, evidently belonging to an aboriginal race to whom may be assigned an antiquity higher than any races now known to have inhabited this part of the world. As yet, no one has been able to give a solution to the ancient temple, which puzzles the brains of our most astute antiquarians. It would be an interesting fact to establish that the races who built the vast artificial terraces and elaborate structures of Zuxmal, Palenque, and Cusco had extended their laws or institutions to this far northern region, or which is it impossible that the Aztec races of the tropics passed into those countries originally from the north, and that this temple, which is of vast dimensions, and the scanty relics which are now and then turned up in the mining regions, are the remains of what was destroyed by volcanic agencies centuries before the discovery of America. The theory is plausible and interesting. Evidences of volcanic eruptions abound in California, and whoever has traveled through the interior and witnessed the curious exhumations now and then made will not pretend to deny that a race of no mean order of civilization has existed here in ages past, and who have been swept out of existence by some terrible convulsion of nature, perhaps the same which burst through the Golden Gate and changed what was then a vast inland lake to the present San Francisco Bay. Okay, I think we might have time for one more. This one's from 1872. Ruins of an ancient American city. Colonel W.T. Roberts, who went down to Arizona with the Mike Gray party, hunting after diamonds and things, had some wonderful stories to tell upon his arrival home concerning the land through which he passed, the people he saw, hardships endured by the party, and discoveries made. Roberts tells a strange story of a strange city, or the remains of one, away down in that desolate land. It was while attempting to find his way out of the gorges into which the party had stumbled that Roberts came out upon a mesa and was astonished to find before him the ruins of what was evidently once a populous city. It covered an area of about 3 square miles and was enclosed by a wall of sandstone, neatly quarried and dressed, 10 or 12 feet thick, and which, judging by the debris, was 15 or 20 feet high before its fall. In most places it had crumbled away and fallen, and was covered with sand, but in many places it was still standing 6 or 8 feet above the sandbanks which had drifted around it. The entire area inside of this had, at one time, been covered with houses, built of sandstone, which showed excellent masonry in their construction. This ancient city is situated in Arizona, about 90 miles from the boundary line between Utah and Arizona, and the same distance from the western Colorado line. It has the appearance of being an old Aztec city that has been deserted for hundreds of years and fallen to ruins. It is entirely of stone, and not a stick of worked timber is to be seen among the ruins. Nothing but the walls are standing, and none of them are now left more than 8 or 10 feet above the sand, which is 8 or 10 feet deep. The walls still bear the traces of many hieroglyphics cut deep into them, showing various Indian something and superstitions. There are also ruins of stately monuments, built of something block sandstone, well quarried, and something of good masonry, which are worked with notches and crosses cut into them at regular intervals. The city is covered with sand, while it is thought has blown there from the something. This is so hard to read, sorry. Blah, blah, blah. Under the sand is a layer of blue clay, 6 or 7 feet deep. Bones, implements, or relics of any were found, with the exception of pieces of pottery of dark color, embellished with paintings of floral and ornamental figures in blue. The coloring matter is of a blue substance of some kind. Which, worn away at the solid masonry of the city, show their colors fresh and bright to all appearances. The pottery itself has been found to be perfectly fireproof upon trial. So yeah, they found a whole bunch of stuff buried, and the city itself was buried 10 or 20 feet under, so massive destruction. Okay, I'm going to end here because I'm running out of time, and I hope you enjoyed all the ancient city discoveries that were made in the wild, wild west. It makes you think of, the stories of the old world being the new world, and the new world being the old world, and all the stories of Utah and Judah, and the Golden City out there in California, and Egypt being like in the Grand Canyon and Texas. It's just crazy to think about. But we were never taught this, so it's good to delve into these old newspaper articles and find out for ourselves what the heck was going on back there in the land of the lost. All right, well, I hope you have a great day, and be safe, be kind, and be well. Until next time.